Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
I love it.
Not forget them all.
Okay.
Then they get ready to do the other side.
Ready, Michael?
We are good.
Okay. The regular meeting for the Plymouth City Council for Thursday, February 10th, 2022 is called to order. I'm not going to read all of the printed material about how to join the meeting because there's 3 ways you can join, 2 ways where you can be here. But I did want to reiterate that if you want to speak and you're on the Zoom call, to please press *9 to raise or lower your hand and use *6 to mute and unmute your phone. So call to order, please. Roll call, please.
Councilmember White,
Present.
Councilmember Sims,
Present.
Councilmember Amoruso,
Present.
Vice Mayor Ackerman, here, Mayor Kleinfelder.
Here.
Thank you.
Could we please stand? Could we please stand for the flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an invocation this evening. Yes. Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion of the meeting agenda for February 10th, 2022.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda for February 10th, 2022. Second.
Roll call vote. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sims,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ackerman. Aye. Mayor Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Thank you.
So item number 3 on the agenda is public comment. Under government section 4953, citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing and submitting a speaker submittal form to the city clerk or following the COVID-19 advisory instructions noted on the first page of this agenda. Speakers will be called by the mayor at the point on the agenda when the item will be heard. Speakers are encouraged to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. State their name and community of residence, but doing so is not required. Under the provisions of the government code, the city council is prohibited from materially discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda unless demonstrated of an emergency nature or an urgent need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. At this time, is there anyone in City Hall that would like to speak in public comment?
I have something I'd like. Okay. I'll stay here.
This is, I don't know, a Plymouth issue. We won't call it an issue, and I actually feel real sorry that this is hasn't impacted me more than it did today, and really strike me. I just want to speak a little bit about the homelessness that we have, especially in the city of Jackson and throughout Amber County. I don't know what this towards this. Our county doesn't know what to do. Our sheriff's department doesn't know what to do. Everyone I've talked to doesn't know what to do. It never seems to be, I don't know, I just got done with a campaign a year ago. It wasn't an issue on my vote because, you know, it didn't affect Plymouth. We didn't have homelessness in Plymouth. We will if we don't start working as a community, working with our churches, working with our other groups. I don't know why this triggered me today, but it did. I was actually at the sheriff's department earlier today because of this. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I'm just hoping that this is the spark that maybe we can start getting things going in this community. I want to do it with compassion. I want to do it with caring. I talk to outside members of our community and people in our community, and I hear the ridiculousness of, let's bust them up, let's do this. I don't know if it's something that we can have workshops about, and that it's just something that we really need to start. Plymouth, Amber County, Sutter Creek, Jackson, we're better than this. I know that Jackson's tried some different stuff. I don't know if it's working or not. All I'm saying is I feel bad that today was the first day that I really felt like this affected me, that I went, whoa, what's going on here? So that's all. I just wanted to bring that up. Hopefully, like I said, it's a spark.
Well, we can talk all night, you and I. It's a subject near and dear to my heart, in a way. I think that, and I don't think we want to spend the evening talking about this, but I think that my personal opinion, we need, as a society, we need to step it up with how we provide evidence-based services for people with mental health issues and substance use disorder. My husband and I speak very openly that we are the parents of a son who struggles with substance use disorder, who has been addicted to heroin and now fentanyl. Speak very openly about, obviously, which I would have his blessing to do so. He's in recovery right now. And I think that's a place to start. So Keith, I applaud you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
I think later when we get to items for future agendas, let's not forget this moment and let's talk about a discussion of a task force, bring even outside, not just the council discussing it, to put together a few meetings with the churches, with anybody that would be involved, businesses. I was informed about a homeless person sleeping in front of the post office the other day. So it's here, and it has been here, and it breaks my heart. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to public comment?
Yes, on a lighter note, I'd like to wish the city of Plymouth a happy 105th birthday.
Yay!
Yay. So,
That's today.
Mhm.
According to your sign on the wall, there's.
The 17th, week from now.
Goodness. We're not gonna be having a meeting.
Birthday month.
Birthday month, there we go. I guess that's the new thing.
When you're 105, we should have birthday years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we kind of did a birthday here.
Yes, we did.
Things.
Is there any more public comment in the city hall? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak under public comment?
No raised hands.
Maria, did we receive anything, any notices or emails?
Yeah.
We're going to close public comment at this time. Item number 4 on the agenda is appointments and presentations. To begin with is 4.1, appointment of a planning commissioner by council member Al Russo.
Yes, my council or my appointee to the planning commission sat down and I have appointed Amy Gomes as our new city planner, and she accepted, and Kevin had filled out the majority of the paperwork, if I'm not correct, or most of it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Peter. Does that require being ratified by the council?
no, that's each council member.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. So we have at this time a presentation. It is an update on Veterans Park project by Jim Wise.
Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, for the record, I'm Jim Wise. I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the Veterans Park Committee. I would like to make a slight modification in how this was presented on the agenda. It's not going to be a presentation of me. We've got an incredible team of our Veterans Park Committee that are here, each of whom are going to provide just a little bit of a snippet, so we're not going to take a lot of time, but we wanted to provide the city with an update as to where we are with this project, our plans moving forward, what we still need from the city. We have a little video that we prepared that we'd like to show the council and our citizens tonight to provide some type of an insight as to the direction that conceptually we're moving. But if I may, I'd like to at least quickly introduce a couple of folks of our committee. Supervisor Brian Netto, in whose supervisorial district this park will reside. Cameron, Austin Ford from our committee. We've got John Colburn from our committee, and we've got Rick Miller from our committee. And in terms of protocols, I think it's most appropriate if I ask Supervisor Netto to say a few words, if you would.
Mayor Kleinfelter, members of council, it's glad to be here before you. Hopefully maybe you're still there if we just part comes to fruition. It's I think about a lot of people I've known in my life that were veterans, and some of them still bear mental scars, physical scars from their time of service. And you look what they did, they went and some of them weren't necessarily thrilled to go, but they went and they served our country and they served our community. And it's been a lot of years. It'd be nice to have a park out there to base on veterans. And I think it'd really be a wonderful thing if you could, and it's something we're looking to incorporate, maybe put some trails around there. Something like John Colbert was really first brought up. And I thought that's a great idea because I see, I don't know if I say older folks, I see aged folks walking a lot on the city streets. Right now, the city streets are pretty quiet, but they'll probably get busier over time. And I think it'd be a real good asset in addition to the community. You have like some walking trails and maybe have some areas where you stop and read some about the different services and what they gave us. And I'm going to help all I can with the park. I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
A little shout out to the supervisor. He has been extraordinarily helpful and encouraging every step of the way. As a reminder, this was a joint venture. It started off with a memorandum of understanding and agreement between the city of Plymouth and the Rotary of Plymouth Foothills 501 Foundation. And that was the structure in which all of this desire to move this park forward is taking place. The desire here is not only to honor those men and women who have served in our armed services from District 5, but also to make this a welcoming park where individuals actually come and utilize the park. If we can't get eyeballs in the park to see those names that we're honoring, we're not, I think, achieving all that we really want to achieve with this park. So it's a dual function to make this as accessible and as exciting as we can as a park, and also to honor our service vets. And what the individual that really kind of got all of this started is Austin, and it's just going to give just a brief background as to how we got there.
Thanks, Jim. Good evening. Is it Madam Mayor? Is it Mayor? I'm not sure what the correct way to address you.
Mayor Val is fine.
And City Council members, it's great to be back up here again, and Mr. City Manager. And it's been a long time since we got up here and talked about the Veterans Park. As you know, Rotary's mission is to do good for the community, right? And to improve the quality of life and improve the community in general. We have actually 5 Rotary groups in Amador County, Jackson, Idaho, and so forth. Our group is all about Plymouth, and we call it Plymouth Foothills, which includes River Pines and Fiddletown. We change the president each year, and in 2015 it was my turn, and I wanted to think of something meaningful that we could do as a project for that year that would have some of a lasting impact. I wasn't too concerned about legacy, that's not who I am. But something that, it might be important to people, might to reach a little deeper than just fixing up a sidewalk or something like that. And I went to the city manager at the time, Jeff Carter, and I think John was in that conversation, I remember, and I said, well, what could we do for the city of Plymouth that would fit those criteria? And after some thought, Jeff looked at me and said, well, the Veterans Park could use a little help. And my reaction was, what Veterans Park? And we went over with Jeff and looked around, and sure enough, there was a park. It was all ingrown, the paths were a mess. The grass was dead. A couple of really inappropriate trees sticking up there dominating that area where the flagpole is. There was no signage. It was pretty hard to tell what that was. And the worst part for me was there's a very nice flagpole over there. But the flag that was up there was all tattered. I don't know how long it's been up there, and there was no light on it. And I thought, we need to do something. This might be the project I'd like to get behind. I asked a number of people about Veterans Park working there, and everyone had the same reaction I did. What Veterans Park? So it even more interest, and more compelling discussion to get this moving ahead. We did. Rotary came up with some grant money. The city came up with some money, and I have to say that it really helped. The relationship was cordial. We won a bill we didn't expect, no problem, we could dealt with. I think the budget was not huge. I think it was like 12,500 at the time. What we did, we did. There's now a flagpole. It's had a new flag on. It's lit up. There's some beautiful signage. A lot of that was contributed by Dave Wilgert at the time. He partnered with another fellow, and they had it built. It's really nice. We had a nice little entryway. Kathy and I grabbed and the landscape people helped. There's some plants, and you can kind of see this as the entryway to something nice, and a whole bunch of other things. So that was, we got awards for that. That's nice when you get your club gets some awards, and we did. The following year, my time to lead the initiative was sort of up. Dave Wilker got more involved, and I think he accomplished a couple of things. One was after some tedious discussion and perseverance on his part, we did develop a memorandum of understanding with Plymouth, the city, that does define how we'll move ahead. Okay? That's all very clear. Jim mentioned the foundation will be a keeper of the coins. There'll be it's a 501(c), so you can contribute to that. Tax issues, of course, notwithstanding. And I think Dave Chris left town, and he asked me if I would get involved again. I said, well, I've kind of done my thing. And he said, well, I'm talking to Jim Wise. I said, oh, really? And I said, well, if Jim's going to lead this thing, I'm on board. And I'll do whatever I can to support. I knew a little bit about what Jim had accomplished in his life and what he brought to our county. And his, what's the right word? It's not a dedication, it's a caring something for veterans. And what that dovetailed with how I saw things. So today we're rocking and rolling on the next phase. That place is going to be more gorgeous than ever. And we're all on Jim and moving us ahead. Thanks very much for listening to me.
Thanks, Austin. Before John comes up, I think this might be a good time to maybe roll the video a little bit and give you an idea of the concepts that we're trying to achieve. Let me hasten to add that these concepts are not set in stone. We must be transparent. We're dealing with public money. We're dealing with a public park. We need to bring the community into this even more. One of the things that we're going to be asking the city is for assistance from you to publicize a public hearing for the citizens of Plymouth to see what we have in mind, to solicit input and recommendations from them as to how they would like this park to roll. Because after all, this is going to be a city public park. If this, and let me just say, 2 more members of, this is a good example of how the folks on this committee are dedicated and working hard on this project. I'd like to recognize that Carl and Marilyn and off of our committee just arrived as well. So if we could do the video, that'd be great.
This is basically a walking trail that we map. This would be the memorial. This is just a different. Yeah, recently, right around trade structures. Now one now, that. This is going into each branch of the service that you can see individually as it relates. And not the big and different branches. Of course, this is the restrooms, that we, our big part. This again is the different branch of services. Sorry I interrupted, but I thought you needed a little explanation.
I'd like to also give a shout out to Mel and Rocky Raymond, who helped put that video together for us and gave us a lot of concepts for architecturally how we'd like to move forward. John, you're kind of on the roll, but you want to keep it going?
Well, my big part of this was, well, maybe a little bit of a very friend of mine. And he pushed something very hard to work with Jim and to be a part of this. But my main part is to try to see that something does happen. It's been 74 years since this money's been put in the way for veterans recognition, and it's not doing much, not recognizing our veterans in the bank. And it's time to move forward with this. We actually have, we lost 4 people in World War II here. We lost 3 people in World War I. And we have 3 others. So we've had 10 people in Plymouth proper that we have lost to defending our country. We have over 700 names of people that have served, and it's time that we are. So my goal is to see that we do get something. We're not going to be able to get what we could have 3 years ago because of just the inflation, all the building costs and everything. So anyway, it looks very good, and we're pushing hard. Hope to work good and work well with the city to get to build something that you guys can be proud of. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Let me just say that the committee has created a website. It's still in construction, but we will have that video available on our website as well. It's www.d5vetspark.org. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to provide a link to that city park website on the City of Plymouth's webpage, unless I'm lying to you, which I didn't know to do. Let me just say, what we're trying to do is to bring forward as well a little bit of the history as depicted even in the architecture to incorporate that into this park as well. That's why you see the entrance of the park that is represented with that head frame from the mining that is here. The buildings that you see try to duplicate the type of architecture that you had during the gold rush out here. As John has said, we've got trails that will encourage people to get out and walk around, and we'll have 6 little gardens, if you will, and each of the gardens will provide a brief narrative of each of the 6 service branches as a way to educate folks about that as well. We're contemplating providing some senior exercise equipment along part of the trail as well to encourage folks to get out and utilize the park and to move. And we're having discussions with a couple of ideas as to how to integrate Plymouth School as with an arts element as part of the park as well, to enhance the educational and learning opportunities that could happen for our kids, so that they too not only honor the folks that went before them and provide service, but understand even things about each of the service branches as well. So we don't have all the answers. We do need public input. We're going to make a great effort to reach out to the public here. We've been on the local radio station to publicize this. We've got publications in the Ledger. We'll continue to do that outreach. We need to ensure that we're doing a great outreach program to ensure that every individual who is eligible to be honored on that wall is in fact honored. And we need to do a really good effort to try to find some folks that would be willing to donate goods and services to help us honor our veterans as well. We would look forward to an opportunity to come back to you on a regular basis and provide you updates. And we're really grateful for the chance that you gave us tonight. And I just want to say how grateful I am to these incredible folks that are giving their time to serve on this community. So it's a real honor to be with them. And I guess we're all open to questions should you have any.
I had a question because not just veterans, but on August 7th of last year, the city of Plymouth became a Purple Heart city. And I was wondering if some thought has gone to how we could recognize the individuals on the wall that are that have Purple Hearts, or just a plaque that would describe what a Purple Heart stands for.
You participated in a ceremony last year. We designed Charlotte's Older Veterans Park. And I think the people that led that were very happy that we were there. We were very happy to be there. That's the kind of thing we do. So whatever makes sense, we can talk to him into it. Well, we do everything by committee. I mean, one of the things that we want to do, Madam Mayor, is to provide some type of a designation next to the name to indicate the service branch affiliated with that individual. There would be an easy way to incorporate another icon as part of that, I would imagine. That could denote the fact that that's a Purple Heart winner. I also want to say that the folks that helped us put this video together, our Gold Star family, they lost their daughter in the Air Force. And this is one way that they thought that they could get back. And it's a real treat to have them involved with this as well.
Thank you.
So, you're the Plymouth Foothill Rotary, correct?
So yes.
Yes, so that territory covers, I'm guessing, Plymouth and then the Gateway, kind of almost where I would say Mr. O'Netto's supervising lines go and stuff. And I've always heard Veterans Park is considered Plymouth's Veterans Park, and I understand it's in Plymouth. But I know we have a lot of vets in Fiddletown.
That was incorporates all that.
Yeah, does it incorporate all that?
That's kind of my, I guess, my big question.
Yeah, recommended it incorporates the totality of District 5.
Okay,
Of the supervisory district, and which is another requirement, because with redistricting, we probably get caught in a little bit of a mix between old District 5 and new District 5, and our decision has been, we're going to be inclusive. We'd rather make a mistake by including people that may or may not be in the new or the old District 5, rather than exclude them. So we're going to err on the side of inclusiveness.
awesome.
But listen, we're all about community, and we don't necessarily make political or civil demarcations and lines like that. And it just made sense at the time this group was formed, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. The community was certainly one of them. That was also the immediate on-roads, right? Like we see when we talk about the COVID distribution, right? You see Plymouth and area, right? Same idea.
Austin, understand, is there a veterans park in Iowa?
There's a monument. I don't think there's,
It's not a park.
It's small, it's a park.
There's a park there with a wall that honors their veterans as well.
What about Jackson and some of the other communities? Is that the only one? Yes.
Jackson doesn't have, I think,
No, not Jackson. Will there be an overlay of veterans on both parks, or is it? The same veterans won't be on both parks?
Is I in?
Can I join in that?
Oh, sure.
Ken Sutton, member of the American Legion, also Shenandoah. The Ione Veterans Park is strictly for the Ione veterans. I was there during the ceremony, the opening ceremony of that thing. So that was, to my understanding, from what I've heard research, that's strictly for the Ione veterans. Thank you.
Hey Kevin, just real quick, was that put together by the VFW there?
I don't remember. It's been so long ago since they did this, so I'm not sure who put it together. I just know I was with the American Legion on the Honor Guard when we dedicated that. So.
God, only two of you are asleep. I think we succeeded.
Thank you.
I just, we were talking about what we accomplished with the work a million years ago. And I had forgotten that Mr. Ranetto contributed two of the most beautiful pieces of redwood I've ever seen. And they are posts now at the Veterans Park, and they have a rotary logo on the top. They look really nice. Thank you, Brad.
It is our intent to the greatest extent possible that we utilize local materials, local contractors. We are in discussions with the Amateur Arts Council as to how to bring local artists into this, to bring that local creative element in as well. So we want to make this in and of our community.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have one quick question. Is there going to be some type of way to continually add names as our young people start serving in the service?
Great question. We have actually interviewed a couple of companies that have great experience in doing engraving in polished granite. We're looking at the faces themselves will be polished black granite. That's our intent. Part of the discussions would be that at least twice a year that entity, that company would have the ability to come up and add names. This is obviously going to be a dynamic monument. We will always be adding names as long as we've got men and women in our armed forces. So yes, we'll be able to add names to accommodate those. And so the names, as they will be listed on the monument, will be done in chronological order, so that we can always ensure that we have a way to add names.
That makes sense, because then you'd have some spaces or a new piece of granite when you run out of space on that one. There is a veteran that grew up in Plymouth that somehow we should honor. He ended up living in Jackson and being the supervisor, but he was a state senator, a war hero with a Silver Star, and that's John Begovich. But the Begovich family means a lot to the Plymouth area. So maybe we could talk to the family and see if they'd like to do something in his honor.
It does raise one other consideration, and that is, we know that there will be some considerations for whether or not somebody actually qualifies. And the desire that the committee has, and the idea that the committee has, is to establish a set of guidelines and then establish an ongoing committee to which any name where there's a question as to appropriateness would be referred so that they can adjudicate the best way and the most thorough way forward.
Yeah, Sharkey and John Baker will both be included. They don't have to live here currently or all their life if they live here at all. And they can be a member on this wall. Because we do have lots of people who came here as children or whatever that weren't born here. And the only requirement that we're looking at currently is they have resided here at some point in time. And even if they overlap, that we change the district back and forth, we don't care. If they were in District 5 at any given time, and the president idea is that we're going to include.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more comments regarding the presentation? Given what anyone on? The consent calendar, I would entertain a motion on the consent calendar by the council.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
And it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. The consent calendar does include a resolution which calls for a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sims,
Aye.
Councilmember Amarisa.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ackerman. Aye. Mayor Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on the agenda is a public hearing. This is a continued public hearing on an ordinance. It's an introduction and waive the first reading by title only of an ordinance amending Title 19 of the Plymouth Municipal Code, adding Chapter 19.90 short-term rentals, which institutes a registration requirement and adds an application process, regulations, inspection requirements, operational standards, and prohibitions. I would open the public hearing. Is there anyone in City Hall that would like to speak on this agenda item, the public hearing? Is there anyone on our connection with Zoom that would like to speak on this agenda item? You can raise your hand with *9. Michael?
No raised hands.
Okay, members of the council, did you review the changes that we asked for, and do you have any comments?
I reviewed it and I thought that it's very well written. The planning commission did a good job outlining all the issues that go into such a situation. So I think it's well done.
Any other comments? Okay, I had one comment that I noticed that something was included in the guidelines that the council did not discuss during the first public hearing, and it was not included in the directions to staff. And it was, now language has been added that special events would need a temporary use permit, which is what the council instructed staff to do. But it also is, has being included that a use permit has to have a minimum of 45 days prior to an event. The council did not instruct staff to include that language. So, and
Erin's on the Zoom, maybe she can answer that, and it could be a relationship to clearing up how you got a special event versus that. You know, because I know we allow like weddings, for example, they can do that if you change the number that could be there. But that doesn't mean they couldn't have something else there. And we would probably want to clear it up. Erin, are you available to answer that?
I am, yes, thank you. So as you see, I added the provisions about the capacity, the daytime capacity, as we discussed, and then also that anything over that daytime capacity, we require a temporary use permit. I did add that date in there, or the deadline to it, to allow staff enough time to process that temporary use permit and be able to notify, do enough research, notify neighbors if possible, if needed, and then be able to issue that. Because if a person hosting an event came to staff a few days before their event, it's not enough turnaround time to be able to issue a temporary use permit.
it just seemed to me that 45 days was excessive. How many temporary use permits are being processed by planning currently?
So we have been processing food trucks with temporary use permits, and it takes a couple weeks, but this is something that I believe has more of an impact than a food truck does, because it could potentially be bringing hundreds of people in cars to a neighborhood. And I think to make sure we can balance the needs of the neighbors and the residents of Plymouth and the people that are hosting the event, we need enough time to be able to do the due diligence, work with the host, the organizer, in case there's anything that needs to be changed, and also get enough information from them. For example, I'm thinking situations where there's a wedding or a large gathering, and if all the cars can't be there, we want to be able to see their valet program that they're doing, or if they're doing a shuttle system, how that's going to work, so that there's not 50, 100 extra cars on the street. And it was also my belief that any event that's a large scale event is being planned more than 45 days in advance. You're not hosting a bridal shower or a wedding with less turnaround time than that.
My question was, how many are being processed right now by planning staff?
Temporary use permits, I don't believe there's any being processed right now.
How many in the last month?
The last month, temporary use permits, none.
How many in the last 6 months?
A handful of them.
So I think the requirement for 45 days, I understand how perhaps 10 days, that's 5 business, 10 business days perhaps, but it seems like 45 days is, we're trying to be very inclusive of business, only we're making it more difficult at the same time. And it's not what the council instructed to be part of the changes.
Yeah, I don't think a 10-day turnaround is with the way that the planning department in Plymouth works with a planner being there 1 day a week is something that it would be difficult to do, honestly. Not that the temporary use permits take that much time. I just think that this type of temporary use permit may be much bigger than some of the other ones that have been issued.
I'm having a difficult time with this because the council had opened a public hearing, discussed things, provided guidance, and it came back to the council with things in it that the council did not request or approve. And now it's part of this public hearing.
The way that I wrote this was so that myself, the planner, and the planning department going forward has a way to make sure that these are being processed in an appropriate manner.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't catch the last part of what you just said.
I just said the way I wrote this is that so that both myself, the planner, and planning department going forward in the future has the appropriate amount of time to be able to process something like this that could potentially have a big impact on a neighborhood for an evening or a weekend. And this may be an opportunity.
I'm sorry. I think your point is well taken. If it's a large event, I'm just thinking that for a smaller event, 45 days seems like it could be too much. So I'm wondering if there's a happy medium. But I think your point is well taken about a large event where they're gonna need valet parking and that sort of thing.
So
And
that,
I have no idea how often that could happen.
sorry, the temporary use permit is for any event that exceeds the daytime capacity of the house. So for example, a 3-bedroom house, we're saying a daytime capacity could be 24 people plus minor children. And so if they had 40 people, that's when they would need a temporary use permit. Or in a 4-bedroom house, it would be 30 people is the daytime capacity. And so anything over that number. So I mean, I'm not sure how large.
I understand, Erin, what triggers the necessity of a temporary use permit. My question is related to the inclusion of a 45-day timeline ahead of time for something that might be 1 or 2 people over what would be automatically approved. So, and you know, we've done a handful of temporary use permits in the last 6 months, maybe in the last year. And I don't believe that we are so busy that we can't approve or disapprove a temporary use permit in a much more timely manner.
So Frank, can you chime in on whether can that just be taken out?
If we make any changes, substantive changes, other than yeah, removing that, the 45-day out would be a substantive change. We can make clerical or typographical changes between the first and second reading, but not change any substance. So again, if there's a typo, if it said a typo, that kind of stuff. So we could continue the hearing if there was a desire of the council to change that term, but unfortunately you have to come back in for an instruction. And
could we just do it, it will be in the minutes that the city council wants to make sure staff is working as quickly as possible to process these temporary use permits? I think just to move this forward, or, I mean, it would be obviously go into the code this way, but.
So Karen, let me ask you a question. If you got a permit request today, are you obligated to wait 45 days to give them an answer, or could you process it in less than 45 because we're not busy, but no more than 45?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I process things as quickly as possible. I don't like just having things sitting on my desk. And so this is to ensure that people aren't coming in on Friday saying, I'm having an event tomorrow on Saturday. Can I get a temporary use permit?
I got a question that goes back to Franklin, and it's kind of the same issue that Rex was saying. So Will that change if we put no more than 45 days?
We change any of the substance of it.
It's gotta come back.
It's not my job to say what's important, what's not. It just has to come back, and that's just basic.
So, again, kind of. I didn't catch that when it was put in there, so I'm with you on what the direction of the council was, isn't matching what's here. I don't think the intent was to change what your direction was, because remember, your direction originally was no special events. You know, that's why you are allowing so many people to be there, so that's why I changed that. In the planning department's defense, we don't know or anticipate 5 years from now how busy we're gonna be. Or next week. So do they need 45 days today? No, I think that's the illustration that maybe the mayor was saying, or I was asking, would it take really 45 days? But we need to forecast what happens later on. What happens if someone wants to come in and do an event at a short-term rental that actually has a lot of space available that could have a mini wine festival there hosted by, I mean, you'd have to think, what could it be? So to back what Aaron was saying and also what the mayor is saying, is that it might be a reasonable compromise to go with what you have, or you have it stricken and we take that out, which was designed probably easier, and then we come back. It just adds to that to it. So I hear it. There might be a reason.
My preference would be to move forward. I just want to express that we had a public hearing, we took testimony from everyone up here, we provided instructions to staff, and it came back with additional language. And I don't want to hold this thing up because we did get what we wanted, but I'm not happy about including things unilaterally without the council instruction. Is there any more discussion by council?
I personally feel that leave it as it is. If it becomes an issue down the road, we change it at some point in time. Obviously, it's not a problem right now. So it's a problem here and now. Then we revisit the whole thing, right?
Yeah, you just have to let the ordinance, so it's 2 readings.
And I'm sure if it comes to her, she will process as possible. We all know that 45 days is maximum.
I would entertain a motion on, well, do I need to close the public hearing?
Yeah, we'll just maybe open it one more round and comment in light of our discussion, and then we can close the public hearing.
In light of some of the things that the council has commented on the ordinance change, is there anyone in City Hall that would like to comment on this issue?
Your Honor, we do have somebody that just texted me that's on Zoom, I think, who they would like to speak. They texted me saying they're trying to figure it out. So that's Elizabeth, there, the second one next to Ventura.
Okay, now I'm going to open it up to Zoom
There you
for
go.
comments, and you to raise your hand, press *9.
Okay. I don't know if I'm doing *9. I have no idea how to do this.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
We hear it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe that this whole thing is because of our Airbnb or our vacation rental, and we're the large one with events. And I completely understand what the council is saying about they didn't say that they wanted this in the what they're saying about what they asked, but this isn't a hindrance. Our issue when we brought forth whether we wanted to have a wedding or not, which we're not sure we're going to do weddings, was lead time that was beyond. So someone who wants to have a wedding is going to be 90 days, 100 days, a year, 2 years out. So speaking on behalf of vacation rentals and the largest property of vacation rental, 45 days isn't an issue. And I know that Erin is probably being overcautious because she's worked to try to do things more quickly than the 45 days. So I just know that anybody who's planning to have a wedding, 45 days is not an issue. If that makes any difference in what you're saying, I get what the council is saying, that they didn't ask for this to happen. And I think that Erin had probably put this in with an abundance of caution because she gets all the complaints when they call in for issues. So 45 days really for a wedding or a large scale event, it isn't that. I mean, lead times are about a year. So that's all I just wanted to say. Sorry, that's.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak on this issue?
No other raised hands.
I would entertain a motion by the council.
Madam Mayor, just close the public hearing. That's
Oh, that's, yes. I would at this time close the public hearing. And if there's no additional comments by the council, entertain a motion on the ordinance change.
I'll make a motion to introduce and waive the first reading by title only of an ordinance amending Title 19 of the Plymouth Municipal Code, adding Chapter 19.9B short-term rentals, which institutes a registration requirement and adds an application process, regulations, inspection requirements, operational standards, and prohibitions.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to introduce and waive the first reading of by title only. And we've read this 5 times, so I'm just gonna call for the vote.
Roll call vote. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sims,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ackerman.
Aye.
Mayor Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin, for being on the Zoom. Item number 7 on the regular agenda items is discussion and review of the city agenda template and possible direction to change the current format of the agenda structure. I asked for this to be on here just only because we've never really discussed it, and it seemed like including things that we don't have a presentation, but it still always says presentation, it gets read. And if we don't have an invocation, it's still on there, and that gets announced. And I just felt that we could streamline the agenda portion. We've already discussed the correspondence being added to the consent. So I'm open to hear any thoughts.
Oh boy, this is gonna sound really nitpicky, but can I suggest that maybe we consider getting away from the colored paper? No? I got shot
I
down.
already asked.
Really?
So, since it's a discussion, we do this so you can separate, and the public can separate issues from it. And if you go back into the history of all of this, then if we have an abundance of art stock, we used to do it in art stock, then we would do it in plain paper. We'd be glad to do it just in black and white without color because it just takes more time. So if you say no color, we'll do no color. It's tradition, God knows why, who knows when, and so changes there, so. And our color copying system is so more efficient than it used to be from years ago, so I don't know, I don't know. We'll do whatever you like.
Well, like I said, I think I'd be a little nitpicky, but I'm thinking about the cost of toner and the paper and ink pen. Everybody, all of us doing our part to reduce our carbon footprint. as little as it seems, and also thinking of 5 years from now. We might have a whole bunch of people who want copies of these, but I can live with this.
You could go, everybody was given iPads for a purpose, and that was to go paperless. And I think California a few years ago said that their goal was to go paperless. And I'd have to find where that was, but there really was some movement through legislation to say, you're running trees. So we could just eliminate the paper, and you become responsible for just having it on your iPad and keeping track of it. So some people are still in the old holding. Yeah.
I am too. I like it.
Absolutely. So.
I'm sorry.
My
I like my
no,
paper, I can mark it up, I can do whatever I want.
That's right. So it is, but we're here to work with you and for you.
So the cost of the colored ink, we're not running out of that, or is not providing additional costs over just having white paper?
Now, we start out with the white paper, and it's probably pennies for each copy. And actually, it probably costs us more, I've been told, if we pay more on our machine if we use black and white copies. When they keep track and they bill us, the black and white ones have a different cost tag.
Here goes back to that, me the rock star, or me the rock and roller and everything else. As a matter of fact, today I was looking at the cost of, it's hard to believe that anyone would even look at CDs anymore, but some bands still do them. And the cost of printing CDs, and if you went black and white, it was more money than buying buying the color full on.
Now, I'll tell you why. Black is a combination of all the colors. To make black, it's not just black. Is what I was told.
Yeah, this is true.
I did not know that, but so black is really all the colors.
Right.
Then, it is what, we used to bind them also with a binding. And the council said, why do you do that? That's why it sits over there instead of sitting place out. We don't do that anymore because it was a waste of money and time. It was labor.
So my other, go ahead, Peter.
I have just several issues with this. I mean, historically, over years, it's slightly refined here and there. It's, our agenda is not that clumsy at this point. And when we look at like the ification we have, we do have ifications. So we say ification, it's 2-second word. And council made a promise to Pat Shackleton to leave the ification in there for history. But it's the house of God, or if it's the house of the people, the ification doesn't have to have any religious undertone to it. An ification can just be, blessing our business, doing the city's business, doing the people's business. So I don't see what that necessarily has to go in, because it's like a placeholder, right? I mean, do we do it? Not very often. It really doesn't happen that often, but there's times when it does happen. I don't know. It's to me, I'm not a big fan of change, and when something works, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, I don't know if any of these changes, to me personally, are streamlined enough to go through a whole change to our, what we did kind of historically it was done. My 2 cents.
Okay, and then the other thing, I wanted to talk to Frank about, and we did a little bit, but we could add language in the beginning paragraphs that talk about the need for a roll call if a member is on the teleconference or on the Zoom. But then on the other agenda items, we could have you just put roll call votes. It's on resolutions, spending money, ordinances.
Yeah, so are you saying that we would do roll call votes for certain items, but not roll call votes for other items?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, so There was some legislation passed a few years ago that sort of mucked this up.
Kate brought that to us.
Muck this up a little bit, and does the law say that you need a roll call vote for every item? No, it doesn't say that. But what it does say is you have to have a registered vote for every member. And so as a practical measure, what a lot of cities went to was a roll call vote for everything, so they could always be in compliance with that statute, kind of the best practices, so to speak. And in Plymouth, you know, there has been occasion where we've even got that wrong after calling that. So I think as far as when I say we, I mean, you know, in the minutes, it hasn't been reflected always accurately. So that's the only downside to that, is that sometimes, especially on, you know, I know on routine items, ideas, but there aren't actually a lot of routine items. A lot of consent items are discussed and with, you know, vigor. So I just, you know, that's my word of caution, that if you start going outside the roll call vote, then we're going to question of, well, this is routine, no, this isn't routine, and then, I don't know, so again, it's a best practices. What the law does require is to make sure that we register the vote of every council member, and so that's why a lot of councils went away from the I'll say aye type of thing. So, but I don't want to overstate what the law is either.
So what generally happens is if it's a routine item, the mayor or the chair would call for the vote. If there are no nays, then it is recorded as each person voted yes. If you do have a dissent, then it goes to the roll call. At that point, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you all in favor say aye or something, and you know, you get registered no, then you could take it back to a vote to get clear on who voted no, if it's not clear. But you're gonna introduce a little bit of complexity when that happens, because, you know, you could have a situation where someone then changes their mind, or someone says, no, I didn't say no, and then, you know, that's all, it's just a practical concern, and I'm just trying to play off for you some of the things that could happen. But it's not illegal to do that.
Yeah, when that law came in, Kate came and sat down and talked to council in a meeting just like this. And it was really clear about it. So I mean, you're saying exactly what Kate said when that law came into effect. For practicality and for clarity, it's safer just to do it that way. And that's kind of how she looked at it. That's when we changed it. So we were doing it ayes and nays. And it seemed to work, but there was times when Gloria didn't, she missed something, or, you know, mismarked something. So it did work kind of in our favor. So I mean, either way, I mean, that's just kind of, I'm just backing up the history of what he's saying. That is kind of how that came to be here.
Frank, how important is it we have to read the whole agenda item when we make a motion? Can we just refer to the number or maybe an abbreviation of the item? Do we have to read every word, every number in the
Resolution.
in the agenda item that we're going to make a motion on?
Yeah, so for ordinances, you have to read the title, and Vice Mayor did that tonight when she moved on that matter. That has to be read legibly in the record. For resolution, you want to say, you want to at least say approve resolution number blah blah blah, and you can't say as presented if you're going to make no changes. You don't want to at least say as presented, so it's very clear what
As presented.
as presented. And so oftentimes what you will see in staff report or in agendas is the recommended action, and it'll describe approved resolution number blah 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 doing, you know, A, B, and C, or it'll say or approve resolution, motion approving resolution as presented. And so the particular council member that makes the motion, they see the full language, especially if they want to modify it, or if they're just happy with what the recommendation is, they can say approve resolution number so and so as, you know, presented. And so sometimes I've seen that on occasion that we've done that, but not consistently. But it does, you know, sometimes it speeds things along and it makes it clearer.
I think, doesn't that also add to, when we talk about transparency, history and multiple things, and that it makes it very clear when you put that in hold, yeah, that.
In your motion.
Yeah, you have that in your motion. I had two topics on this one, when we talked about that machine and the binders and everything. My very first meeting, the agenda was about that thick. I thought I had an auto parts manual. And I was like, I'm like, what's this? And they're like, that's the agenda. I'm like, I gotta read through this whole thing, and it was thicker than what it was, but man, I was like scared when I first got out. I was like, this is my first meeting. What did I get myself into? So yes, this is very much streamlined. I know with other committees and groups that I've sat on that do an agenda, I've multiple times seen where, say something was brought up and they just put none, because in case the next meeting they came on or whatever. So I always just thought that was somewhat of a placeholder.
Yeah, from our standpoint, we had a staff discussion regarding this, and the change is not a bad thing, you know, but I take full credit for removing correspondence off here. Because before my first meeting, the interim city manager was a professional city clerk. And she says a lot of cities, if there isn't anything in that topic item, they just don't have it there because it takes up space. And then when they have something, they put it back. She didn't know, obviously, and I definitely didn't know that you had to have this council input for that. So we put it back in, King's X. None, we need to have something for the clerk to be able to follow along, to look for things, because no one remembered the correspondence thing. And we've had correspondence, so you get it, but it doesn't say it. So I think eliminating something is not necessarily a good thing, if it's something we're gonna have in the future. Putting the word none next to it helps you know that there is nothing coming. So like in this particular agenda, where it said, no correspondence, 5.2, we put that on the back, so this is reserved for correspondence, but we had none. So at least you know it's there. We could do the same thing, not that elaborate, but on the agenda, it says none. You know, there is no, like, we asked the 4-H girls or 4-H members, be here tonight, and Ms. Moody was gonna try to get somebody here, and if they could be here, they'd be here. So we couldn't put them on there because we didn't know, but we couldn't put none because we couldn't show up. And so I think it's a good discussion.
And that's my other comment was, could we change the language of flag salute to pledge of allegiance?
So what is the definition of flag salute / or pledge allegiance? I've always understand it both ways.
Well, flag
They can
salutes
be the
are
same
when
thing.
people, uniform and whatever are there, they salute the flag, and that's truly this. Civilians or people on non-uniform, they pledge, which is your hand over your heart. That's the difference. And we are definitely a pledging organization because we don't have a police chief, we don't have a fire chief uniform, we don't have military presence. So that's an easy one to say, pledge allegiance, because that's what everybody says, stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance.
It's always been a little thing. For me, yes.
So that's an easy, if you were to say, you make a motion.
See, we had the Boy Scouts here last week and they saluted.
That's right.
Just saying.
So Rex, these are, I don't know if we need a motion for really non-substantive changes. If Frank can, so it's just the discussion and direction of staff.
Madam Mayor, there's a lot of dinosaurs in Amber County. But it's, I think if people wanna go paperless, they can, but sometimes there's people in Amber County who have computers or tablets or iPhones. I mean, paper's not a bad thing. If people wanna go paperless, they will. If they don't, they'll fight like a shark. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep it easy.
Is there anyone else in City Hall that would like to speak on this issue? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to press *9 and raise their hand to speak on this issue?
No raised hands.
Thank you, Michael. So, Frank and Rex, it doesn't seem to me that there's enough changes that would require a motion by the council.
I think consensus direction is fine if it's, they just want to make, as long as Rex or Michael sums up whatever direction they've heard. I think the only thing I heard was pledge. That was a clear consensus.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So Maria, make a note that from this point forward, we will have a pledge of allegiance, and that's how we sheltered the responsibility onto the city clerk's desk.
Okay, 7.2 on the agenda is the Caltrans Clean California Plymouth Gateway Trails Beautification Project. This is for review and review of the staff report. Rex or Michael, whichever.
I will, I'm gonna let Michael take it, but I do want to let everyone know early on that if Michael doesn't mention it, Councilmember Tim was part of how we originally got our names into this pool as we go.
All right, so we began to discuss this a little bit last meeting. This is a Caltrans project, we have Caltrans money, Caltrans money. Caltrans staff has essentially asked the city to show their support for it, not monetarily, but they would like some assistance from staff, specifically with community outreach. They want to get input. It's very early stages of draft. We included some of the things that the Caltrans staff put together. That's what they used. It was an internal Caltrans grant essentially. So he put this together for his supervisor went to board, they approved it, all of them. So you can see kind of what they're looking at. And yeah, so it's some interesting ideas. I think it would be good to get citizens of Plymouth involved. So what staff is recommending here is that direct us to use some staff time to explore it. Probably host something here at City Hall. I guess would be probably even as soon as next month, if we're able to get some notice out, or maybe even a couple times. And then just communicate with Caltrans as to what other things the city could do. Very preliminarily, it does sound like they might be interested in having the city take some lead with finding contractors for certain parts of it, such as a design contractor. Like, do you have anyone? But if you'd like us to, we can talk to them and say, what can we do? Bring that back to you and say, this is what they'd like us to do. So,
And one of the questions I had, and we may have discussed this last time as well, is Caltrans taking the lead on the CEQA, or are they going to ask the city to?
my understanding is Caltrans is taking the lead on the CEQA, at least from what I've been told, because they've already started to clear it through Caltrans Environmental, which is its own state issue. So they started that, and so from my understanding with how I was discussing it, so that's the first stage, and then we're going to go through the CEQA for that. And so the help that they may deliver for us is actually, I think, would probably be a good thing, is if we can direct them to some local contractors.
It is 100% on Caltrans property, so that's they become a stakeholder in the sense that we would be the beneficiaries.
Rex, have they talked at all about a protection barrier along the trail? I'm not sure how close the trail is to the actual highway itself. Is there some kind of a marking, or I don't mean a guardrail, but something that or is it just wide open as far as you know?
I think it's too soon to tell, because I do know that they want to make it a safe corridor for pedestrians. That's why they want to get pedestrians off the roadway. And there's different ways they do that, but could maybe come up in the design when they start designing. And that's why the importance of the public input, because I'm sure whoever from Caltrans doesn't ever walk that street. They need to talk to those who walk it. So it's a good point.
Well, I just
Michael may know
I hate to
different.
push too many buttons because they only have so much money to spend.
Right.
All of a sudden they put in $500,000 guardrail, we're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, it's more than we have.
So we're better off keeping a little key on that. So I thought you may have heard something.
They haven't said anything, but I can tell you what they might do, because it's in the designs of some similar ones that they've done. This is actually not necessarily a guardrail, row of trees, like smaller trees. And it probably depends on the space that they've got next to with just how much they can do. And actually talking about that did remind me of one more thing that council, we do want to start considering. The designs for this does include that walking path along 49. That's to some of us maybe to highlight. It will not include a bridge over the
Trouble water.
Trouble water.
yeah. No, this past Pockerville, there's water on both sides of 49. They said they're not going to deal with that. So that's, they think that environmental and everything else will clear pretty quickly. If this is something that's important to the council or found it's important to the community, I think staff thinks it would be in the best interest of the city that if we want to consider doing that, it's a lot smaller piece than doing the whole thing by ourselves, is maybe push to get the specific bridge project going before this is completed, because that would probably help us clear a couple of hurdles with Caltrans. If we have to come back and do it at the end, we're probably going to be starting from scratch. But if we can get it started before they're closed out on this, we could probably accelerate the timetable for finish.
Yeah, I would say keep the bridge out discussion at the beginning, so it doesn't impede the beginning of the start of the project. That'd be awful if they started getting in all kinds of environmental issues and all of a sudden 6 months is fine, get done thing. So
yes, Caltrans has said they're going to have nothing to do with the bridge, is what they've said. If we want it, we'll have to take it on, and it'll be longer because those it's going to be more intensive just because of.
do you think only one bridge?
Yes, because it does, the design for it goes on either side of 49, but it's ultimately only one trail, so it's whichever side of 49 is on at that point.
Do you know why we're switching over to this side halfway down?
I do. Based on their preliminary survey, just where the ditch is this original design is kind of where they think they have the most room. And I saw it kind of get tight on either side, different parts. So again, probably the size could change if they get out there, they survey, they're like, okay, we've got more space than we thought. I think this is what the surveyor, this is some guy that came out and eyeballed it. He said, I think this is what was happening.
And the one thing that jumped out to me, and I know this isn't really a plan yet, but I wanted to comment on the location of the tentative gateway monument locations. And it's almost all the way up to the roundabout rather than be down closer to the edge of town. So I thought that would be something that needs to be discussed with the public and with Caltrans at some point along the way.
I agree. He didn't listen to me when I told him where to put it. Because I did tell him, I pointed him on a map. It's at the end of the other one. Yes, I think there's that may actually be a mistake. I think, and also you'll notice one of them is marked on Main, right? And I don't think they're going to do that there. I think the discussion was going to be on both of them be on 49. From my understanding, so it would be immediately north of the roundabout and then probably at the south end. It would be kind of where I expected.
Also, part of the discussion was that they were going to try to figure out how they could do some enhance, telling people that we have a downtown. That they may not have used the right words for that, because how do you tell people to go left, and go to the business district? So the guy's a nice guy. I mean, he definitely wants to do the right thing here.
Just a big neon sign that says Main Street.
It was an arrow.
It was a big arrow pointing down Main
Neon
Street.
sign with an arrow, yeah.
Got it.
Look, if they let us help pick the designer.
Just, that's 40s and we're about the 40s, right?
Sure.
Is the council ready to open it up for the public discussion at all? Is there anyone in City Hall that would like to speak on this agenda item? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on this agenda item? Please raise your hand.
No raised hands.
Okay, does the council have any additional discussion? And please understand that this is in a very, very preliminary level. So it's gonna come back looking at this, and it's not our project. But it's very nice to be included in the conversation. So if there's no other discussion, I would entertain, do we need a motion or just? No,
Well, I think the recommendation is to authorize you guys to continue the conversation with Caltrans, right? Yeah. So maybe just
I make a motion
to approve staff's
to approve staff
recommendation.
recommendation.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Yeah, I make a motion that staff keeps communication with Caltrans on this issue on the agenda as presented.
I said,
And to be done.
Peter, did you? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to just provide staff with direction on this agenda item. All those in favor? Oh, well, can't do that yet. Gotta catch myself. Roll call vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sims,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ackerman. Aye. Mayor Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Seven point three on the agenda, review and discuss COVID CDBG CB-1 utility and other allowable uses and CB-23 small business assistance grant status updates and possible direction regarding the use of such funds. Is Michael?
Yes, it is. So over the past year, we've applied for a couple of these grants. The CDBG, the C obviously stands for COVID there. The part one was for utility assistance. So that is active. We're going to be sending out some additional information. We've already had one award. We want to get it to more people. We're going to specifically target anyone with past due bills. That being said, the award was for about 50,000, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to get all that in amounts to eligible people, just for the utilities. That being said, if there's remaining money, we're going to need to talk about what it should be transferred to. The simplest thing might be to add it on to our CB2 or 3, which are our micro enterprise and small business assistance, which we're working on those programs. We just received the award. We just got all the paperwork to accept it for the micro enterprise, and the small business is being processed. The HCD is pretty far behind. There is a lot of flexibility in what funds could be moved to for any remaining funds for CB1, and that's kind of a general thing to talk about. Our discussions with the HCD rep, it was essentially anything that can be shown to have a community benefit, especially for low or moderate income. Even as much as if you find the right small parks project, it could be turned to that. So in that one, I'm kind of looking for either some potential input, or if there's any specific type of thing you'd like me to research and get back to you of where those funds could be directed towards, and be happy to do that. The CB2 and 3 program, the micro enterprise, is for about $100,000. That awarded. I think we're looking for a little bit of direction if there's anything specific. Council would like staff to look into creating those awards and any additional, I guess, targets that we'd like to see. Other than that, I think things are moving along and mostly discussion and questions.
Is there any questions for Michael from council?
I'm a little confused on the, on ways money could be utilized. I see utility bills on here. You said there's only one potential person right now that's reaching out for the money. Is that what you said?
One person that's finished the process. So we're gonna do, essentially a marketing round, we're gonna put it on our, social media and, include some of the bills this month. So those go out, next week, I believe. And then probably something additional, there's not a huge list of significantly past due.
We applied for it, got $100,000.
We have about $50,000 for the utility assistance.
Right.
So that's the CD one, we've got about 50.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna be able to use that.
I'm sorry,
I don't think we're gonna be able to use all 50.
there's not enough people that are gonna reach out for it.
It's not just the people who reach out, I mean, everyone can reach out, but they're also eligible, so because there is pretty strict income requirements. So it's you've got to be making below a certain amount for your household.
What about the small businesses you referred to? Have any of those folks made any connection with you as far as?
We haven't started that.
You haven't started that yet?
That's we've got the rough outline of it, so micro enterprise, so I believe it's 5 employees or under, so very small businesses. I think this is, as council, if there's any specific ways you want us to target that, and even whether they be used as grants, loans, that type of thing, there's some flexibility on it there. Again, the only thing we really narrowed it down to is what type of businesses we're gonna be assisting. And yep, hope that helps.
So this agenda item, again, is very preliminary, especially on the second, the micro enterprise funds. I'm sure it'll come back to council to flush out exactly how we want, we can come up with some ideas tonight and provide direction to staff. But this will come back again in a form that council says, yes, we like that, or no. And we know you provided direction, but we don't like it now, or whatever. I I understand about the 50,000, and if my suggestion would be, if we rolled it right into the other fund, that would simplify things, because then you're only doing the one plan for all the funds, instead of it being a chunk that goes somewhere that isn't really enough to do anything with. So if it's added to the other grant funds, that makes more sense to me. And my preference is also for part of the funds to be used to establish a revolving loan fund for small business. And we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. Everyone has done it. So there's lots of good examples.
One of the things that would help staff is that you go home tonight, think about these things and stuff, and send it to us individually to say, hey, here's a list of things, and then we can look at them and vet them through and say, okay, yeah, I like the revolving, we talked about that, that's been done. And then we have to find out from the question, can we give the money to somebody and require them to pay us back? Like the previous CDBG money. I don't know the answer to that. So if you come up with things besides tonight, I'd recommend you get a hold of the staff and say, hey, I got a list of 10 things. I mean, the homeless would be a good example. Think of ideas, not just say, oh, we got to help the homeless. You may come up with an idea for that. Could be used for helping homeless figure out how to become employed in a micro business under funding, that kind of stuff. So we just encourage before the next meeting or whenever this comes back on the agenda, that you have some ideas to be able to say we don't like or we do.
Is there any more questions, comments from council? Is there anyone in the audience in City Hall that would like to speak on this agenda item?
Anyone?
And is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to speak on this agenda item, please raise your hand.
No raised hands.
So I think what staff is looking for, and it's, like I said, very preliminary, is just some direction to keep moving forward and bring it back to us and get a better idea of the separation of the funds and how much, you know, when are you gonna cut off the utilities, because we've exhausted all of our efforts, and then have the amount so that we know what we're dealing with for the other side as a funding. Does that make sense to anybody? I think by consensus, we can just provide that direction to staff. Okay. Unless somebody wants to object.
That's, yeah. Nobody wants to send it back? Okay.
Okay, so we provided direction to staff to keep moving forward.
How long do we have to make this final decision on the money? How long is it in our hands? Deal with it?
The decision on the CV1 funds and rolling them over is probably gonna be within a couple months. So we're gonna, yes, they are actually two different timelines. So we've had the CV1 funds for longer. We're gonna push to get out as much as we can. But there's a spending deadline for the CV1, which comes up before 2 and 3. And so then the goal would just be to move it on. If we're able to roll it into 2 and 3, I believe that then be able to extend that deadline. If we do anything else, I believe it would be, I think we're looking at this fall as needing to have everything done.
I guess we need creative ideas on how to spend that money within the city of Plymouth. We thought about that beyond
Yes.
the obvious.
Well, that is part of the reason that it's an item here right now. Instead of bringing it back for the first time in a month, saying, we need to move the utility things and I want to move it here. I think it would be better for input because this gives the council an opportunity to say anything that you're interested in, but it also makes it public and we're available for public comment. Same thing that council members' ideas, if anyone in the public has any ideas, our email inboxes are open, so is the phone.
So I think it's been pretty clear the direction for staff, so by consensus, we can move on. Item number 7.4, council discussion of SB 1383, regulations and organic waste diversion requirements, including the future adoption of an edible food recovery ordinance, recovered organic waste, procurement requirements, and approval of SB 1383 countywide how recycle regional plant litter or authorization. I'm gonna do the opposite. Is there anyone in City Hall that would like to speak on this issue? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on this issue? Please raise your hand. Okay. Council discussion, or do we need any from staff synopsis? You wanna go?
Yeah, so this item is essentially two parts. Part of it is the technical part with related to SB 1383 and the legal requirements that are being imposed statewide. So I have Joanna Jin from our office, who's one of our solid waste experts. She's gonna go over that, and I think Michael is gonna discuss the grant approval letter.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Joanna Jin. I am an attorney with Best & Krieger. I wanted to provide an overview to the Council regarding the SB 1383 organic waste requirements for the city. Senate Bill 1383, which was signed into law in 2016, directed CalRecycle to adopt regulations to reduce organic waste by 50% from its 2014 baseline levels by 2020 and by 75% by 2025. Organic waste includes food waste, green waste, and other organic materials. SB 1383 also requires the recovery for human consumption of at least 20% of edible food that is currently being thrown away in landfills. The goal of SB 1383 is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. When food waste is disposed of in landfills, there's little oxygen in the decomposition process, which results in the production of methane gas and affects global warming. Another goal of SB 1383 is to reduce food waste and to salvage edible food for people who may be in need. Cal Recycle's regulations, known as the SB 1383 regulations for the bill that it implements, took effect on January 1st of this year. The regulations require local jurisdictions to provide organic waste collection services, to establish an edible food recovery program, and to procure a certain quantity of recovered organic waste products every year. Currently, ACES Waste Services provides solid waste collection services in the city. At the October 14th meeting last year, Council approved a resolution for a rural exemption from organic waste collection requirements. Cal Recycle approved that exemption on January 1st of this year. Although the city is exempt from organic waste collection requirements under the rural exemption and does not need to modify its solid waste collection services, the city still must adopt an ordinance to implement and to enforce an edible food recovery program. The edible food recovery program requires businesses that sell or provide packaged, prepared, or raw food that would otherwise be thrown away in the landfills to instead donate that food to food recovery organizations such as food banks, so then they can distribute that edible food to people in need. The businesses must enter into agreements with the food recovery organizations to effectuate the purpose of the SB 1383 regulations. The city's obligations are to establish an edible food recovery program, maintain a list of the edible food recovery organizations that the businesses can donate to, inspect and ensure that businesses are making the arrangements to donate food, and to work with the county to determine the edible food recovery capacity for the area. One business has been identified as being subject to these requirements because it is a grocery store over 10,000 square feet in size, and that would be the Pokerville Market on Highway 49. The edible food recovery ordinance will be introduced at the next council meeting on February 24th and eligible for adoption on March 10th. Council must approve the ordinance by April 1st of this year in order to receive grant funds from Cal Recycle that it is currently applying for to implement the SB 1383 regulations by April 1st. The city must also procure a certain quantity of recovered organic waste products every year. That annual target is based on a formula, It's based on a formula that multiplies the city's population by 0.08 tons of organic waste. So with the city's population of 950 residents as determined by the Department of Finance, the annual recovered organic waste procurement target for the city is 76 tons. And the city can satisfy this procurement target by procuring certain recycled organic waste products such as mulch, compost, renewable gas, and electricity generated by biomass conversion. And the conversion factor for each product is different. For example, while 1 ton of mulch is equal to 1 ton of organic waste, 0.58 tons of compost equals 1 ton of organic waste. And the city can use the grant funding from Cal Recycle to meet these procurement targets. Again, this was an overview of the SB 1383 requirements, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. The only item for action before you tonight is council approval of a letter of authorization to allow the city to be included in the submission of a SB 1383 regional grant application to CalRecycle. And Michael has been working on that item. And so with that, I will turn it over to him. Thank you.
All right, so the second part of this item is a grant that the staff is recommending that we work with the county on. Whether or not we decide to do it with the county's moving forward with other cities that have also joined in. Essentially, the reason that we think it makes sense to join the county on this is it does help us lump together some funds. County's hired a consultant, this would help pay for them. And essentially what we would be getting back is some expertise on this SB 1383 item. I don't know a lot about solid waste, and I think that's going to go over most of our staff here enough to really be sure that we're doing everything perfectly. There's a limited amount of things that the grant can be used for, and so what the county is essentially spearheading is we all work together, put some of it for countywide things like the Interfaith Food Bank, and then is also setting aside a portion of it so we retain some of it in-house to pay for our administrative costs of the new policies and procedures we're going to have to set up for these requirements. Like Joanna said, you get the exemption, doesn't exempt us from everything. So there are things we're going to have to do. I believe part of our portion, the administrative stuff, would cover the things in-house, and then we essentially have what looks like to be on-call consultant essentially with this to just help us make sure that we're checking all the boxes we're required to be checking, and just keep us in line. And so that's the recommendation there. The letter of authorization, the same one went out to all the cities. So it's drafted by CalRecycle originally for counties that choose to do this regional type of grant. Other counties are doing it as well. 20,000 for the whole program for a small city may not be able to be used as efficiently as it could be a bigger pool of money to make something happen for the region where more people than just the one chop it over. So that's that.
Add real quick that ACES is on board with this, obviously. They, as our provider, they're very astute, they're very clear as to what they're doing. They will help us do it too. We had some preliminary discussions with them before this came through. And they've been in front of the council saying they are still our franchise for.
I worked on this issue when it was the original 8939, so way back when, so on the task force. I wanted to point out, which may be very helpful to us in the future, the comments about the compost, I thought were very well done, because the green waste that everyone gets, the yard bin in Plymouth and around the county, all of that green waste goes to the CNEs and is composted and is then sold. So if the city purchased said green waste and then purchased some back, that could assist in fulfilling the requirement as well. Are there any questions, comments from anyone in City Hall after the staff instructions on this demonstrations? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. Is there any more discussion by the council?
I just wanted to clear up, sorry, I know you asked the council, but to inform your conversation, to be clear on the SB 13 regulation, that was an overview. We also wanted to educate you because we will be coming back with the ordinance to comply, and it will be roughly just to comply with state law as far as the food recovery piece. Just want to make that clear.
Is there any additional questions, comments from the council? Okay, I would entertain a motion on the letter.
I make a motion to approve a letter of authorization
Plymouth to be included in the SB 1383 regional grant application. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the signature and submission of the letter joining with the other cities and the county on fulfilling the SB 1383 regulations. All those, roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Sims.
Aye.
Councilmember Aversa.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ackerman.
Aye.
Mayor Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 7.5, discussion and direction regarding future selection and or selection process of financial statement auditor for 21-22 fiscal year and beyond 22-23 per state law. Michael?
This is another preliminary item. We're kind of bringing it to you before we mess something up. So we've got a couple options of how to move forward here. But the main thing is we're going to have to make a decision on financial auditor for the current year. So at the end of the year, they'll come and look at everything we've got. It's good to have rotation and when essentially I'm a former auditor, used to work for a firm that does these. Rotating every so often brings a new perspective. Every audit firm kind of has their own things they focus on. And just kind of is the point. When I was working, the partner that I worked with, his big thing was making sure every place had a credit card policy. But the point of that is that you don't want to become complacent. So this is a good thing, even though it's probably going to be a little bit stressful for staff and everyone because somebody new. It's going to be a challenge. But this is something that we have to do. There is one small option where that auditor, Marcelo, is going to be working with a company called Plymouth Group. They're a very large company. I think it would achieve the same effect because I don't think he's actually going to be auditing. They're going to bring a team in, he would be there. He's getting a chunk of change just to bring his clients over. He's not very much work for it. However, council, you get to decide how we pick the auditor. Rather than just bring you an auditor and say, please pick them, tell me how you want me to bring you someone. 3 options. You can select a single auditor. If you're going to do, just pick someone. The safe choice there would just be that company, the PIM group. We can reach out to multiple companies and kind of do a little bit similar to what Aaron did with the RFP for planning, where actually reached out to people. That was also an RFP, but we could get input on any companies you know of. Anyone we want to send it to, say, hey, can you give us a bid? And we don't believe there's a requirement that it could be all bids. However, the third option is we can do an RFP. It's pretty standard to issue those. They all look the same for cities. But it's a specific list of things they've got to meet requirements for. I mean, you can pretty much go to any city that's you can copy and paste theirs. So it wouldn't be that difficult to do an RFP. It'd just take a little bit more time, pretty much. So let's discuss it. Let me know what you would like us to do.
I had a question. Has there been any outreach to the new firm? Is the pun?
Pooh. The assistant, it's the owner's name is Kenneth Pooh.
So has there been any outreach to them to inquire whether they are interested in contracting with the city as part of their moving on?
Not specifically, but I can tell you that he'd be interested. He's trying to build his company. They're focused on a lot of city audits. They're trying to build an inroads in Northern California. Actually, when I was working here as a consultant, I they were short-staffed, and I worked for that group company for about 3 months, helped them finish the audits. 3 years ago. So
Because I looked up the government code yesterday, and just as you described, it doesn't require changing a firm, it requires a change in the lead auditor. So if we went with that firm, then there would still be the expertise from the auditor that is familiar with the city of Plymouth. They just would not be the assigned auditor. But the other language in a contract could be, even if we did a 6-year contract, it would be a rotation within compliance of the government code, blah, blah, blah.
yes, so that'd be standard. And we can do a 6-year contract without having to do that. If we did 6 years and then wanted to extend, we would have to include that language.
I have a question. What is the annual dollar amount that is involved here approximately?
I don't know for sure what it's going to be. It's been about I think about 25. It's dependent on 2 things. So our basic, this Marcellin company has been doing audit for $25,000. He's given us a small discount because he likes me. But he says it's a discount if you've got a CPA working for you, and it's slightly less hassle. So it's like 22, 23. Unless we're getting large government grants, we have to do a second part, which is called a single audit. And so he charges an extra $9,000 per program. We're off and on that we have to do that. I think with our Safe Routes to School project that we completed, we had to have a single audit for the 2019, 2020 year. So that was about 34.
Michael, on the check register sheet you provided here, we gave Marcella a payment of $8,333. Is that a partial payment?
Yes, so that's separate. We can talk about it later, but that's the progress billing. So it's based on how much he's already worked. So
it's roughly $25,000.
Yes.
Annually. Just for the report, or is that for work throughout the year?
It's just for the report. It comes here, gets all that
The
information.
the audit itself.
So just to provide a little bit more background on it, if we go with another firm in an extended contract, they'd probably be here twice a year. He usually comes out at the end of the year. Bigger firms, because they have a busy season for government auditing, which is like September to December. Okay, so you close your fiscal year. To try to cut down on the work they have to do, then they also come out sometime in the spring. If we do an RFP, we might not be done quite in time for that, but it would want to be an issue and do it going forward. One moment. I had a note and I lost it. The price. I can't tell you for sure what the price will be next year. This is the government auditing. So right now, the Marcellin company is just okay. He does it. He's one of the last people left in the state that do city audits, which is one person. That was done this, I think, pushing 40 years. It has gotten considerably more difficult to complete these audits, so we've seen these one-man shows go out of business, and bigger companies start to try to do it. If we're lucky, they really want business, we could even see a little discount. If we're not, I could easily see it going up to 40 or even 50,000 a year. It's that's a lot of detail as far as audits go. And cities, even though we're smaller, there's enough spread out that if they feel like they have to look in each fund and double check this, we could be looking at it. And so that's why I say that's the 25 is what it has been. I wouldn't even feel comfortable estimating right now.
But I was interested in, because this is just, like you said, preliminary and getting kind of directions. I thought it would be interesting to have that conversation with whom. Ask them about a long-term contract, which if they ask them what a 1 year, 3 year, 6 year, and what the difference is in that, and then come back with those options to council. And then if the council says, oh no, that's, we're gonna go out with an RFP, at that time, then we do that. But it seemed like something to explore first and have the information.
I would be happy to do that if that's the council's desire. I think my one thing personally is, I would not recommend a straight 6-year contract. I would say do a 3-year with like an option to renew for 3 years. And the reason for that is, even though it's kind of somebody we know, there's no guarantee of how, right, even this auditor will work. And 3 years does save money, but if it ends up being a bad experience for staff and council, especially with the fact that, okay, Marcelo, semi-local, he's done cities like us in Northern California, out at Sutter Creek, he's been all over that Poon Group company, they're based in LA and Walnut Creek, and they haven't, I've seen their client list, they haven't done anybody quite like us. So I'm not saying there's potential for an issue, but I think with anybody new, I would say that that'd be a risk that I would recommend council just protect yourself, just that slightly.
Right.
1 year.
Yeah, that was a question I was gonna ask, so thank you. Go on there.
Is there any more discussion from the council? I'm gonna put it to the floor. Is there anyone in City Hall that would like to discuss or comment on the selection process of an auditor? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on this agenda item? Please raise your hand. No hands, Michael?
No hands.
Okay, council, this is was for discussion and provide some direction, so you have enough information to give a consensus to staff of what to explore?
Well, I think like what you were suggesting, to ask Michael to reach out to see if they'd be interested in this and really find out how much they really do like you, Michael.
What was that?
Yeah, they'll give us a deal if I agree to work for them. I do not recommend the council do that.
Okay. Did you have a comment, Greg?
This is February, typically, when would the auditor come in and start the process? Towards the end of the year?
Yes, after the end of the year. usually.
Calendar year?
No, so it's a fiscal year, so that's what our audits run on. So our auditor, for instance, for 2020, 2021, came out in November, I believe.
Yeah, it was November, early December.
Yeah, so
He was sitting right over there.
yeah, so like I said, there's bigger companies tend to come out twice. In this case, it depends when we contract them, so then they come out something March to May, and then again, sometimes September to December.
Do we have a consensus to have Michael get additional information and come back?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, if you're making it up, consensus was, and we noted it, and Michael, go for it.
All right.
We've got the city manager's report.
I refuse to accept your.
Well, let's see if it comes up in this report. I have several notes. One of them is the BBK attorney regarding the second one mentioned that there was something coming due on the 24th. She may not have gotten the memo, as Frank said. Need to discuss the 24th. 24th would be your next council meeting. We have an issue with that. We need to get some direction from the council. On the 24th, without getting into details, because we have 2 employees that will not be here because of medical procedures. And with that in case, we won't have any clerks. I can't tell you who that is, but we won't have any official record for the clerk. So no deputy clerk and no, we would use as a backup, and our backup is the planning commission secretary. She won't be here either. So there's no one to clerk that particular day. So we did not until the other attorney brought up the 24th for the resolution for the organic, but that can go to the next meeting and still be within the time frame for us to take the actions. So other than that, we've looked at all the things. Michael has nothing required. I have nothing that's on the calendar that has to be brought back to the council on the 24th. So before we're done today, we're going to need some direction on that. Form 700, I finished mine. It took about a second and a half on mine. So others have got to get it done. And if you need help, see Maria. Reminder that the housing element is underway. That was our combination grant through the county. The county, Chuck, who was part of their group there, they hired the consultant. And on March 10th is our virtual Zoom with them. That's on our website. That'll be included on there. We'll do noticing publicly through the media to tell people that they can participate on the housing element conversation on that day. Those notices will actually come from the county, but we'll make sure that we include those more. The other thing on there, and you may or may not have seen it, is that I've announced that I will retire on the 10th of March. And I have written each of you and let you know individually, and also through the requirements of posting it by giving you a copy of the letter and sending you an email. But I just want to say that the biggest part of retiring is the fact that we have staff here, they're very capable people. I mean, Michael just demonstrated tonight that he's really good at what he does. Erin is really good at what she does. All of our staff, Kathleen, who I wish she was listening, does so many things that people have no concept of what she does behind the scenes with all the required reporting and all the things we have. So with that, I just want to confirm that you each all got that email that the 10th is my final day for retiring, and that's after 42 years of public service. A lot of people say, oh, I've been done 3 years. No, it's actually maybe a few more. From Linda's perspective, she said that she doesn't care what I do, as long as I leave the house at 8 in the morning. I come home at 5, the daytime is hers, so I'll be sitting in the park with some bread, throwing it at birds, I suspect. But that'll be my task with her.
Same, by the way. Forever worse, but not for lunch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so still here though, we're still functioning, we're still working on everything that we need to be doing as your manager until the 10th. So I was doing my job. So 24.
One thing I had in council staff communications, there's the last item in your agenda packet. So this is a check register for January. So you can see what checks were paid by the city. And if you've got any questions about it, if you look down, let me know. Also answer questions later if you haven't had a chance to review it. And we have to go over. Normally, you have a couple. Some other people may have had the same questions.
No, I first of all, thank you for including it. I don't have any questions right now. I haven't really had a chance to look at it that much, but if questions come up, I'll shoot you an email or give you a call. And it's mostly just so I can learn what a lot of this means. And Rex, congratulations on your retirement.
Michael, can we, if we want to include the check registers, can we include it on the consent agenda? Then it's taken into record when you pass the consent calendar. That's the normal, it's warrants.
We're asking that question because this is a question we had.
Yeah, so the agenda would be the action would be to receive and file the warrants. Just to clarify, it wouldn't be to approve the expenditure because that's already been sent out. Most cities, it's customary to have the consent calendar as the action, not approving, but receiving and filing the warrants. It really is just an opportunity to discuss it, really, more than that, because the receive and file is just kind of an opportunity for anyone to register a comment on it. So that's what it's for.
So yes.
Yeah, what he said.
Thank you. Did we want to discuss the meeting on the 24th now, or do we want to do it under the city, the council reports? Entirely up to the
We
council.
can do it right now.
Okay. I'd like us in the next few days to pursue finding someone that could take those minutes on that evening, even if it was only the counts of the rolls, the roll call votes, because the minutes could be done from the tape, technically. So if we haven't exhausted that information, I'd like to move forward with the meeting, but it's entirely up to the council's discretion.
So I'm gonna weigh in on this right now because I will be slightly affected to participate. This only is I'm having double cataract surgery on the 23rd. So I'm not sure exactly where I'll be at that moment in time. So I just say this may not affect me because I may not be able to be here depending on how I recovered from it and or the ability to read. You know.
So may I get to the mix? No, I'm gonna try really hard. I don't know if I'm carrying or whatever, but I might be on a plane to Vegas that night.
Well, not to pile on, but there's another employee who won't be here either.
I don't know you are.
No, Michael will be here. So here's it's a decision you have to make. Having somebody take those kinds of notes, you're right about that. There's more to the meeting night than this night. One of the people who are going to be gone is going in for a surgery that's going to now extend way past that time. So we have other issues. To be honest with you, let's not have a meeting on the 24th as our request and preference, because it's not just the meeting. It's getting the agenda prepared, and that's why we tried to make sure there wasn't anything key that had to be on it. And then it's not, and then it's, of course, making sure we're accurate at the end of it. Now, having said that, the secretary to the commission is available for the rest of the meeting opportunities. So that the other person can't be here even at the 10th. She's capable. It's just everything kind of came together that day. So staff is requesting that you just cancel that day.
Well, now that you've added that part and knowing that it's also gonna impact the preparation leading up to the 24th, that totally makes sense. So
It's a bigger picture.
I'm good with that. Thanks for adding that.
Sure.
That's important.
I wasn't going to talk about Michael, but yeah, he's good.
And if we lost another council member, we wouldn't have a quorum anyway.
I don't know yet. I'm gonna try to do this. That's all.
You don't have to vote on it. You just tell us. And we do.
So is it the preference of the council to go ahead and cancel the February 24th, 2022 meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Maria, you will send out the notice as required. Okay.
So we have mayor and council member reports. Let's start with council member Sim.
I would like to suggest that we have a monthly code enforcement officers report as to what's happening in the city. He can do it from his home, Zoom, but I think all of us like to hear what's going on, what's taking place, what's happening, what input you would like to have from us, and basically what's going on here. I haven't heard a word for months.
Not really, that's for
I'm
us.
sure it took them some time to get started,
This
but
is not for us.
I think we're at the point now, I would love to hear the report at least every other week, every 2 meetings, once a month, whatever.
I think we might have into some stickity areas in a public meeting, bringing up code enforcement actions. And especially if you talk about specific APNs. And the other thing is, if Frank could give the code enforcement officer guidance on how to do a written report without crossing the line, that might suffice.
Well, I mean, you know, typically, if you get a public records act request, for example, and it relates to a code enforcement case, typically cities want to take the investigatory privilege exemption under the PRA. You also want to redact out complaining parties' information because you want to protect the neighbor's ability to send a violation. So there is some sensitive information that you want to generally protect from the privacy of people involved for no other reason. So whatever report we're given, you want to anonymize it to some extent to protect protect the people. And in a small town like here, that's even harder because there's a lot of ways to know who it is without knowing who it is. But yeah, but at a high level, you can discuss some of the priorities of the program, what, maybe the amount of cases, that kind of thing. Sure.
One of the things that we have, and Scott will come and talk about this, as soon as we get the last piece of it, and that is the government outreach. And that is a data gathering, it's a self-reporting, it is lots of things, and there's parts of that can be provided to you. It's much like the check register. It's not asking you your permission, it's telling you this is what's going on. There's 3 things pending, and it all has to do with animals or whatever it might be. I can answer your question a little bit. We have one citation that was issued, and that has gone through a process, and we have one person who was paid the fine through the administrative citation, and they have sought a conditional use permit for what the violation was for. I didn't tell you anything about what it was, but it gives you a very high altitude. And I will tell you that for Scott's company, he's here one day a week, and he has a lot to do, so he sets priorities based upon what he hears and knows. The biggest priority was up until government outreach was put in place, is to make sure all of our ordinances and our fines and stuff were in place. So he's working one day a week, and if we were to add part of his duties to give us a summary once a month, that may take away from what else he's doing. So, but I hear what you're saying. Let's work on and see what we can bring.
Well, it's fine if it's very general.
Sure, no, I hear what you're saying.
Just just whatever he thinks that helps our town would be terrific.
I think that
Help in some way.
it's like all the other departments are all busy with different things, so it's hard to say with, maybe they have 10 projects, or maybe they have 1 today, or maybe they're filing 20 reports, or we have 16 permits. We can do something like that, but I remember it adds to what you do. So, a good point. I made a note to talk to you.
Is there anything else, Doug?
No, that's it.
Councilmember Amoruso.
I don't necessarily have any reports. I do have a potential request. And that request or ask is, Rex, would you be willing to come work kind of as needed, 1 or 2 days a week, just only that as needed until we get to where we're going down the road?
So I'm gonna have to throw the yellow flag on this.
That's fine.
I love
Just
that, the yellow flag.
Yeah,
That's fine.
it's actually a red flag, challenge flag, but like for obvious reasons not agendized, and that's one of the things though, I think that we're probably gonna have to schedule some kind of meeting in advance of March.
Well, that's why I was asking us for a future kind of.
Yeah, future agenda, exactly.
Right, that's kind of where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So maybe I didn't lay it out as eloquent as I would have should have.
So now is that a checker flag or is it a yellow?
I don't know.
Red flag, exactly.
Peter requested we schedule a special meeting at some point to discuss some stuff.
Yeah, there you go. There's that.
Councilmember White.
Okay, yeah, we'll bring it back up, the homelessness. I don't know if it could be a workshop. I definitely know it's not just Plymouth. This is countywide, community-wide, statewide. I really don't know. And to the Ackerman family, I appreciate your sentiments towards what we discussed earlier in the meeting. I'm going through a little bit of this issue with a family member myself. But that wasn't what triggered it. So I just know if you give a little bit of hope and someone takes that opportunity, man, it's an amazing thing. So that's,
The county has a homeless coordinator, and I'll reach out to him. I think someone lives in Zinfandel Ridge that has a connection to that process.
so I know the homeless coordinator in the city of Jackson, that the police department hired. It's not, it's how do you gather it together in a forum to put your minds together.
And it's humane.
And it's humane, and it's not, get them on a bus and,
I have it.
and talking like it's a different class of citizen, together. With that being said, I mean, mental health, many of you probably don't realize this about me. I had a brother who was mentally handicapped who passed away at a very early age. I worked in the mental health field before I got into pest control. And what triggered me was a mental health issue today. And going back to with COVID also, affecting a business. And when I talked to the sheriff's department, there was like, you have no trespassing signs up, we can't do that. That was the answer I was given. And so I concluded.
I also have a family member suffering from schizophrenia. And it's not something that happens every day, but it's a serious issue. And the fact that many of the homeless, not just here, everywhere, are suffering from mental illness. Even the veterans with the PTSD. So Keith, would you be willing to chair or help with staff putting together a couple of meetings in Plymouth here in Town Hall to talk about the issue?
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want us to stick to future agenda topics. We can't really create a committee or chair, but if you want. Right.
He answered my question.
Yeah, so, but if, Councilor White, if you want to do that on your own board, you can go do that.
I have a note.
Vice Mayor Ackerland.
There is the Ann Arbor County Behavioral Health Advisory Board that is up and running. So I just want to throw that out there. I think they meet every other month. Good caring group of people. Anyway, completely switching gears for future, I have nothing to report, but future, I don't know if this is really an agenda item or more of a request for a staff report, but I would be interested in knowing, so we can plan for down the road, the status of this building.
Red flag. In the back room.
Danger rocks.
Yeah. I feel like a few months ago when we had those major rains, I thought I saw Home Depot buckets all over. Yeah. And is there a plan for making repair, how much would it cost?
Former Councilmember Colburn tried to get me to climb under the building. I told my fist fight.
And now we have you.
Let's get, how about the ambassadors? They can crawl in.
Whoa.
Normally we wouldn't ask this, but I'm sure you want to know.
You don't like the answer, actually. This place is rotten.
Well,
I hear you, and we'll do something.
yeah, I think, I mean, he's sitting over there, he knows what an egg I can be at home, we need this, do that, and here I am. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's a worthy discussion.
Yeah,
I think you're right on it. We have a city hall. We know it's in bad shape. What can we do to improve it? We're not moving anytime soon, it's pretty obvious. And
there's gotta be some simple things, nothing's that's, there's gotta be some things we can do to improve this place. Leaks, for example, I mean, there's a new roof. We have John Peabody, he's very qualified to give us an idea of
Do an
what
assessment.
kind of assessment we need in order to make this place
Have to be careful what you ask
for 5 more years at least, 10 more years.
So I get here, I
We're
get
not going anywhere, so.
Yeah.
We'll just do it.
All kidding aside, we'll bring back a report for you, you need to be prepared for what you will hear. Because we've asked that question, that's why it looks better than it is today, and the great books that were behind you were removed, not because we didn't like books, it was causing the floor to fall because of all the weight. We patched that wall several times, it's cracked. So there's a lot of problems, but we'll bring it to you, but it's not gonna, it's like another council member had said, we'll do it, and maybe we'll have John do the assessment, because he actually said that at any given moment, he condemned this building for safety. So be careful, because then you immediately push out into the street, and we get a pop-up across the street.
We might need to buy a couple more.
So what, that, it could be, her agenda item could actually be in the future, that assessment versus other options.
Yeah.
So that would make, putting it in that context makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there is USDA RD money for community facilities, and it's in low interest leases. And I'm sure the bank holding a lot of our money would be interested in financing part of a building too. So there's lots of options. How's that?
Great.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's it.
I don't have anything tonight. If I think of agenda items, now I have plenty of time to turn them in. I want to thank everyone for putting up with the long meeting and thank the staff for all their explanations. The meeting's adjourned.